Welcome back to another episode of Surly Talk Sports off the back of what was a huge day for Warriors fans yesterday. Crazy scenes, but of course we'll touch more on that shortly in the NRL section. Shout out to the TAB as well. Really appreciate them. Headline sponsor of this podcast. And this week, the Surly Talk Sports boost. She's all out Warriors. We've gone Warriors 13 plus over the Dragons and Rocco Berry to score himself an anytime meaty. Boosted up from $5.50 to $8 of the best. So if you like the sound of that, make sure you head along to their app or website, head to the boosted odds section, and there you will find it. Massive weekend for me. Of course, Warriors on your Saturday night, a famous draw, but we still celebrated. And the Mighty Coat got up with a big 13 plus win over Silverdale too. A huge game for us this weekend, taking on Massey for what is the Ramfurly Shield of North Harbour Rugby. She's called the Les Pierce, and it's all go. Massey, your current holders. We're playing them at home, so this is a chance for the Coat to come away with some silverware. Fair to say, she'll be a big night at Harvey Wright if the lads can get the job done in what should be a bloody close game. But so much to rip into this week. FisherHarris signing, Super Rugby. You got Jordie Barrett, Joey Manu off to play in Japan, your NBA playoffs, UFC 300, and much more. So without further ado, let's chuck the keys in the ignition and rev her up. How good. Well, there you have it, Warriors fans. The news is out. James FisherHarris will be heading to Penrose and wearing that Warriors logo on his left tit for 4 years from 2025. I'm almost truly lost for words. It doesn't get much bigger for us in terms of signings. We get a 28-year-old prop in the prime of his career. He's the current Kiwis captain. He's been a cornerstone of that Penrith pack that has gone on to win the three-peat. He's one of the game's hardest ball runners, hardest hitters. He's a genuine enforcer and a true alpha, a leader that players will just follow into battle. He's a Kiwi as well, so he ticks all the boxes, and this is just massive for us. Shout out to Webby, Cam, George, Robbo, and the crew for pulling this one off. Of course, James FisherHarris, he was signed until the end of 2026, so as soon as we heard about Adam departing next year, he was the player that I think many Warriors fans put at the top of our wish list, but in all reality, we didn't think that this would be a possibility. Well, no one told those three. They've gone and got it done, and I can't wait to see him become a cornerstone of our team in the years to come. I genuinely believe that once we look back on this day in Warriors history, we will mark this down as one of the key signings for the club. The kid from the naughty north coming back to apply his trade at home for the greatest club of all. How fucking good is that? And fair to say, I was pretty speechless when I first heard the news. It rattled me, had the shivers, had the shakes, had to take a breath, go for a little walk outside just to regather myself. When you think of players, that would be a straight like-for-like replacement for Adam Fanua-Blake. Jesus, it's slim pickings, but we've gone and done it. You'd probably put Payne Haas, Joseph Tapine, and James FisherHarris all in that category. I just truly can't believe it. It's going to take a while to fully hit home, but just seeing those images of him posted on the Warriors social media page, shit, did that get me excited. I honestly can't wait for next year now. And to make it even better, we'll be coming into the year as defending champs and adding the fish. Me oh my, it's exciting times for Warriors fans ahead. In terms of your other big talking points, now I have to regather myself now to try and get through the remainder of this podcast. Speaking of Kiwis though, we had two Kiwis lads going the big lift last weekend and certainly capturing the headlines. Joey Manu and Chance Nickel-Klokstad racking up the third and fourth biggest ever run meters totaled in an NRL game. Joey with 347 against the Knights and Chance with 346 against Manly. Fair to say, Joey Mans, he's got a lot more credit for his knock, and to be fair, he did it in 80 minutes, whereas Chance did it in 90, but I feel like Chance's achievement has been swept under the rug, so I'd like to give my flowers to our Warriors fullback. Two Kiwi workhorses that always run themselves into the ground, and shout out to Wade McKinnon as well, who is also on the list for most meters run in a game, alongside Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, so three Warriors in the top 10 10. You love to see that. And well done to both of those lads for banging out almost 350 metres in a single NRL game. That is wild scene. Speaking of Joey Manu, he has announced he is off to Toyota Verblitz in Japanese rugby to play under their new coach in Ian Foster, heading there on a one-year deal for the 2024-25 season, and I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Of course, he did play a lot of rugby coming up through the grades. He's often said as well that he would love to wear the All Blacks jersey one day, and that it was a childhood dream of his. So if that's his intentions and he kicks on from Japan, they'll be interested to see how he goes about it, whether he comes across to Super Rugby, plays 2 years in our competition after cashing up and banking millions of yen to then make himself eligible to wear that silver fern on his left tit, or whether this is just a one-year cash up and then he looks to head back to the Roosters, who he said is the only NRL side that he would play for out of respect and a sign of recognition to their loyalty to him. So this could be a one-year cash up. He goes back once Teddy retires and he wears the one jersey for the Roosters. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, though. A massive get for Toyota Verblitz. Aaron Smith, Jordie Barrett there at the moment. Seeing Aaron Smith chuck seeds to him, that will be iconic scenes. Friend of the show, Aaron Smith too. So shout out to you there, Nuggy. Where he'll play, personally I see him being a great centre, utilising his ball skills, got a great ability to offload, a high work rate, and he's a strong defender. And of course he plays centre in the NRL mainly at the moment, so that would be a natural switch. I think he'd also be great on the wing if he wants to take a while to work his way back into the game and get used to the flow, adjust to life in rugby union. Otherwise he'd be a bloody good fullback as well, as we saw on the weekend in that display I just touched on. So I can't wait to see Joey Mans give the 15-man code a crack. It'll also be interesting to see what the Roosters do from here, because obviously Joseph Suaalii, he's departing to the Wallabies as well. They must have a shit ton of cash now. They're starting to get a little low in the outside back stocks. They are picking up Mark Ngawanganetawase from the Waratahs, one of the great last names, and I believe I just nailed it, so I am fizzed on that. So they do pick up Marky Mark. They were after Max Jorgensen as well from the Tars, but they couldn't hit on him. Got Billy Smith. I think Daniel Tupou might well be off contract. Google that one. So they got plenty of cash to splash around. Thought they might have gone hard at Terell May, but they didn't get him. And I also thought they might have gone hard at Zachy Lomax, but he's just put pen to paper with Para. So watch this space. And on that, Zachy Lomax, he finally gets his wish, granted a release from his Dragons contract, and he will be off to join the old Parramatta Seals. A 4-year deal for them and a massive signing too. Para, they're a bit short on outside backs. They're playing the old pool cleaner Morgan Harper in the centres at the moment. So a massive upgrade there. They pick up one of the game's great talents at the moment. Tell you what, he's going great guns on the wing. For some reason, he only wants to play centre or fullback, it seems. Be interesting to see if New South Wales came knocking and offered up a sky blue jersey on the wing for Origin, what he would do there. But well done to Zachy Lowe, and looking forward to seeing him running outside Moses, Dill Brown and co in 2025. On other signing news, Terell May, he's re-signed with the Roosters, a great Jared Waerea-Hargreaves replacement for next year. Of course, he's no James Fisher-Harris, who's come into the mighty Wars. Just wanted to say that again, slip her in there just to keep the fizz levels high. But there was chat that Terell would be looking to link up with his brother Taylor and play their footy together. They even wanted to get the third May in the mixer as well. Taylor, when he re-signed to Penrith, I thought maybe that would be the move and Terell would head back there. It's not to be though. The Roosters lock up their guy and he looks every bit a future Origin front rower in the years to come. The Warriors, we've officially submitted their bid to head off to Las Vegas, and surely the NRL gives us this and we get it done. Not only are we adding an NRLW side to the competition next year, but we've also got the best fans in the comp. We're constantly hitting top 2 numbers in terms of crowd attendance to games. I believe our merch sales are second behind only the Broncos. We've now got the Fish as well, current Kiwis captain. I've already mentioned it 3 times in this pod. Top shelf shit there from me, but surely the NRL acknowledge the movement that the Wars have got on at the moment. If you want to get bums on seats in Vegas, Warriors fans have proven already that no one is more passionate about their side. We're willing to travel, so hopefully it's only a matter of time before this gets announced and we'll be off to Vegas. You best best believe I'll be making the trip over there as well. Absolutely ripping and tearing. So from a personal level, I really hope this gets done, but also on a financial and professional level for the club. It would be huge for us to head over to Vegas and show the world what we've got. So hopefully, again, just a matter of time and the Warriors get locked in for round 0. And then my final talking point on the NRL from last week is the chat around Golden Point that surfaced at the moment. Of course, the Warriors and Manly, we went to GP. We'll touch more on that soon. Then we have the Titans and the Raiders going into Golden Point as well. And it's got the powers that be in the media game. Your big dogs like your Gus, your Buzz Rothfield, your Braith Onesta and co. Got their chins wagging around if Golden Point is good for the game or not. For me, I enjoy it. Really does add another entertainment factor to the game. However, I do agree it's bloody harsh for the losing side to play 90 minutes of football, lose by a point, and not come away with any points on the competition ladder. So for me, if they were to scrap the Golden Point, personally, I think it would either have to be for a straight draw at the end of 80 minutes and you just get rid of extra time altogether. The teams get a point each, like we ended up getting against Manly, and it is what it is. Otherwise, the method that I like would be to mix it up a little, adopt that NFL extra time style method and really make it interesting. So by that, I mean, if you kick a field goal in Golden Point, the opposition team then gets one set to try and score a try in return to win the game. If instead of kicking a field goal though, as your first attacking play, you score a try, then it's straight game over. That way we avoid this field goal fest, teams just marching down the paddock, doing everything they can just to get their kickers into position to snap the 1 point. Can get a little boring after a while, after 10 minutes of just seeing sides take hit-ups and battle it out in the arm wrestle. This way, you're rewarding teams for trying to score a try first or score a try to win it on the back end. So I think that would add another element of excitement. Either way though, I'm a fan of Golden Point personally, but if they scrapped it, just went a straight draw and a point each, I don't think I'd be that furious, as I do agree, coming away at the end of a Golden Point tussle with 0 points on the NRL ladder is pretty bloody harsh. But moving on to that Warriors game, and of course, like I just mentioned, we came away with it, stole a draw, and we will absolutely take that every day of the week. If you told me 16-0 down and then 22-14 down with 60 odd seconds to go that we would come away with this without the donut, then I would absolutely take it. It was all one-way traffic early doors. Thought we missed the jump at the start of the game, which is quite rare for us, as historically lately we've been starting really fast, but that certainly wasn't the case here. Manly scoring 3 tries on the bounce, albeit a couple of them pretty fluky, but DCE, the old Brontosaurus, he grabbed a double, and then Tommy Terell, the part-time Potter, he also grabbed a meaty too to really put the pressure on our lad. Shout out to them though. Thankfully, right before halftime, the boys responded. 2 tries in 4 minutes right before Oranges proved to be a massive momentum shift for us. Jazz Tavanga, the panel beater, he punched over off a nice seed from Tohu Harris, and then Dal pulled off that intercept like he so often does. I think Luke Brooks will regret even throwing that ball, and why he was with such little time on the clock. The hooter was basically sounding a risky play right on the whistle. Dal picks her off and runs it in for 4 of the best. Then in the second half, I thought we played the better footy of the two sides, but probably still wasn't of that high standard that we've come to expect. That try to SJ, she was a doozy. The kid can still move at 33 years old. Old Tommy Turbo, he was left clutching for straws one-on-one up against the Prince of Penrose there. And then from this moment, I thought we really turned up the heat. Dominated the last 20 or so minutes of this contest, both in terms of field position and just in general, we were the ones applying the pressure. A few really big plays from Mitch Barnett, forced a repeat set, which was huge. Dell dotted down with a minute to go, and then came the big moment on full time. That penalty against Josh Aloiai for taking out SJ's legs. And I've seen a lot of debate from over the ditch. It always seems to be the Aussies kicking up a fuss whenever we get a call going our way. They say it wasn't a penalty. To that, I say if Freddie Lussick's was a penalty the week before on Lockie Ilias, then so was this. I'm not a massive fan of the ruling, to be honest, as I mentioned last week, but at the same time, if you're going to call it, then all we can ask for as fans is consistency. So by the letter of the law and judging off past examples, this was well and truly a penalty and a great call by both the referees and the bunker. SJ, as a result, he bangs it over. We take the 2 points and into Golden Point we go. Thought we had two great opportunities to win the game in Golden Point as well. One with that SJ miss off the back of the field goal, but shit, was that a tough nudge with so much pressure being applied on him. And then the other, I thought, was when Tohu came up with that very uncharacteristic error in the play the ball. Thought we dominated the Golden Point period though, and looked the more likely of the two sides to win it. Just wasn't to be for us on the night. In terms of your standouts, Mitchy Barnett, geez, he's getting a lot of Origin smoky chat now, and shit has he been good. For me, him and Rocco have been our most improved players so far this year, and I personally love that Barnett for Origin call too. If you talk about players built for the Origin arena, then I think Mitch is just that. He's aggressive, he's tough, he's a workhorse, he won't back down to anyone, and he's in career best form at the moment too. He put up some impressive stats, ran for 164 metres off 17 carries, and the Minister of Defence, he made over 50 tackles as well. For me though, it was his work in the lead up to that SJ try and his efforts defensively in the last 20 minutes which really stood out for that. Shawnee try, took a carry, had two players on him, shook them off and activated Bluetooth, turned her on, got the hands free, threw an offload, and off the back of that second phase footy, SJ got to work and put Tommy Turbo on his highlight reel. Then on D, he forced that repeat set on Kohler by pushing him back over the try line, and then he was just constantly leading up our line, putting in some great shots off the back of line speed as well, which is not easy to do. He has a massive engine on him, and the development of his game under Webby, I think, has been massive. Add to that, he can play prop or second row, he can go the 80 if needed. What a player he is, and Fizz to see him play in his 150th game this week, an accolade that he certainly deserves. In terms of your other standouts, I thought C&K, touched on him before, but 346 run meters, 89 of them post-contact, 8 tackle breaks, 0 errors, Mr. Safe as Houses, another trademark effort from him. Adam Fanua-Blake, 196 run meters and 47 tackles in 72 minutes. It's almost run-of-the-mill stuff for him now. We as Warriors fans have come to expect it, but that is phenomenal scenes for a starting prop. So well done to Big Dinny. SJ, of course, scored that try, 147 run meters as a half, which is huge. A try assist and a forced dropout. Unfortunately, he missed that conversion of his own meaty, which might have got us the win in the end, although you never know how these things play out if certain scenarios do happen. His battle, though, with DCE was bums on seat stuff. Both players rose to the occasion, and it was great to watch two experienced playmakers just conduct and pull the strings expertly. Two unreal footballers. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, of course, his intercept was massive, but for me, it's his 205 run meters and the manner in which he does them. Shit, he's not afraid of a tough carry. He's got 0 handbrake in his arsenal, willing to wind up and run into the biggest bodies in our game, and whether he gets folded or he gets some PCMs past gain line and we get on a roll, he always gets up with a massive smile on his face. A real fan favourite, and it's not hard to see why. The flying mullet, he just leaves it out there on the paddock every week. And then I thought Wade Egan, the CEO of Ruck Manipulation, he was extremely impressive yet again. Played 90 minutes straight. Forget your 80-minute hookers. We've got ourselves a 90-minute one. 58 tackles, 5 tackle breaks, 94 run meters on 5 darts out of dummy half. He's an absolute weapon, and this was another great shift from our hooker. Gutted for Jazz. Looks like he's done a hammy, out for 4 to 8 weeks. Unfortunately, his body just keeps letting him down. As soon as he starts to look comfortable again, something like this happens, which you hate to see. For Manly, of course, DCE was elite. I thought all 3 turbos showed up and played bloody well as well. Nathan Brown, he was a huge loss for them off the bench, but I'm grateful he was missing at the same time. I have a saying, I'll never wish injury on anyone unless they're playing the Warriors, and I was glad that Brownie wasn't confident out there. 16-0 down, you take the 1 point. I will say though, if you were one of those fans who left early doors from the stadium, there was a shit ton of them too. I reckon at least 2,000 to 3,000 got up out of their seats and left with about 10 minutes to go. Then shame on you. You're clearly not one of the faithful, and you need to learn fast. You never leave a Warriors game early doors, because our side is capable of pulling off anything on their day. But on we march to this week, and of course the great games in the NRL, they don't stop. Tonight we get dished up an absolute doozy with the Roosters taking on the Storm. Two of the big dogs going at it hammer and tongs, and two teams that I found bloody hard to get a read on, to be honest. James Tedesco, he comes back from concussion, so Joey Manu goes back into the centres. Sammy Walker, I see he's named on an extended bench as well, so maybe he's a chance to play. To be honest though, I think they looked better with Connor Watson at 6 and Luke Keary at 7. For some reason, Keary and Walker just can't seem to work their combination out, and they always play better whenever the other isn't in the lineup, which is concerning signs for Roosters fans. For Melbourne, of course, Nelson Asafa-Solomona, the player I thought we might be signing to replace Adam Fanua-Blake in the future, he gets his first start in the propping role, coming in for Big Tui Kamakamitha. So excited to watch Nas rip in. The Roosters, they're yet to get back-to-back wins this year, so they'll be shooting for that for the first time. And then you have the Storm, who over the last month have had some bloody interesting results. They beat us by 4 on the death, of course, about a month ago now. Hate to reopen up that wound. Then they lost to the Knights by 2. They bet the Broncos by 2, who were without Reynolds and Payne Haas. Then they bet the Dogs on the weekend by just 2 points as well, and they're probably pretty lucky to pull that one off as well. It's a big game for both sides. We'll get a good look at them as to if they are the real deal. I expect them both to be there come finals time. Melbourne in particular, really unsure if they're a top 4 side or if they're just in that tier below that. So tonight will be a great indicator. And what is a heck of a matchup for your Thursday night footy. Then Friday night, of course, the main event, your STS feature match for the week. We get the Dragons versus the Warriors at Wynn Stadium, and that is exactly what the Warriors are heading to Wollongong to do, is win, and win well. The Dragons, they'll be without Jack Bird, so Zachy Lomax moves into the centres, and personally, that makes me feel a whole lot better about this game too. He's a weapon on the wing. I think he's actually less dangerous in the centres. He's a great aerial threat on the sting at the end of their sets. Plus, he's just been ripping and tearing, getting up massive metre totals as of late. So I'm stoked to see Zachy Lomax back in the centres. For the Warriors, Webby's named a pretty much unchanged 17, just the one switch, and that is Adam Pompey coming in for Jazz Tavanga. But on the extended bench is where I get excited, and seeing him named in jersey 18 for a potential debut is the young enforcer, Zion Mai'uu. In all honesty, the bench is looking light for me at the moment, with Pompey wearing the 17 and then CHT in the 14. Unless Webby's plan is to play Chanel at lock, move Tohu to the middle, like we saw at the back end of last week, then I think we could be in for a switch here, and shit would it be exciting to see Zion get a run. 20 years old, he's had 4 games for the New South Wales Cup side in return from that suspension he picked up in the preseason against the Tigers. For me, he's 100% a cornerstone of Warriors sides of the future, alongside the other young guns like your Jacob Laban, your Ali Leatoa, Dimitri Sufakula, Leka Halasima. These are the lads that are going to lead us into the future. So keep your eye out on the lineups, and if there is a late change and Big Z gets a crack off the Remu, then strap in, because it's going to be all go from the moment he gets his boarding pass and steps onto the paddock. In terms of what I expect from this one, just a return to our usual displays this year. High completion rates, textbook attacking structure and shape, and we bring back that level 4 lockdown defense that saw us be at the top of the pops defensively for the least number of points conceded over the start of the competition. For me, we're a far better football side than the 13th place Dragons. And despite the perception of them being a bogey side for us, we've actually won 7 of the last 10 games against them. So that is a thing of the past. They are no longer a team that trip us up. Warriors 13 plus, a repeat of the whipping in Wollongong we witnessed last year, where we put 48 past them and we get the job done. Can't wait for this. Friday night footy, it just hits different when the Warriors are involved. Also means less downtime between games. You absolute beauty. Super Saturday, Looking forward to watching the Panthers and the Tigers lock horns in Bathurst. Tigers, they've actually won 3 of their last 7 games against the boys from the foot of the mountains. And anytime Lockie Galvin is playing, you best believe I'll have bums on seats. He's probably the most important 18-year-old in the NRL at the moment. The Tigers, they looked shit last week without him, so they'll be stoked to welcome him back. Looks to be an absolute weapon. And then on Sunday, you got the Sharkies taking on the Cows, which is the pick of the 2 matchups for me. Of course, the Cows, they're a real roller coaster at the moment. When they win, they look bloody good, but when they lose, they look damn awful. They were bad defensively, and shit do they have some errors in them at the moment. The Sharks, on the other hand, they show up ready for a grind every time. You just know what you're going to get from them. A real arm wrestle led off the back of a strong performance from Nico Hines. So this should be a doozy of a clash to round out round 7, and the Sharkies, historically, they've had the wood on the Cows, especially at home too, so Cronulla, they will be up for this. So an exciting week in the world of the NRL. James FisherHarris, he's coming back to New Zealand, baby. The lad from the north will be at the Wars next year. How fucking good is that? The greatest game of all, constantly delivering storylines. You absolute beauty. Super Rugby, and it was a huge week for the underdogs. 4 from 4 they saluted up against the favourites, which made it a bit of a punter's nightmare, but well done to those sides. First up, we had Moana getting the win against the Reds. Fair to say the Reds, their ill-discipline cost them 2 red cards down the stretch. Moana scoring right on the death to pull off a famous win up there in Northland. Some iconic scenes, and that was great for them too. Of course, they have the bye this week, but in the 3 weeks leading up to that, they were really battling. I was worried that they were just going to kick on from here, waste the rest of their season, get put to the sword by some quality sides, and then waste what was a good start to the year. But thankfully they got up, got the dub, and hopefully that gives them some good confidence to come back from the bye and kick on from there. Waratahs, fair to say they've got the wood over the Crusaders at the moment, only their 2nd win of the season, and both against the lads in the red and black. Interesting to note as well, Sevu Reece scored in the first minute of this game. I think Macca Springer scored in the first minute of the last time they played over at Super Round. The result remained the same though. Tars, too good. An exciting game to watch. If you're looking for open running rugby, then this was probably the game of the year so far. Do have to question what Reihana was doing the replacement 10 with that last conversion. If he just wasted a little more time, then that would have been the final act of the game and the Crusaders would have won it. Instead, he didn't use up his full time allocated for that conversion. The Tars, they get a penalty off the kickoff, force extra time, and then their 10 clutches at the replacement 10 with a nice little droppy out in front on about the 22 mark to secure them a big win. A game that perhaps in the future the Crusaders might look back on and think, shit, that was the one that got away. Then game of the week saw the Canes take on the Chiefs, and shout out to the Swills. They remain undefeated, 7 from 7, and geez did they look good in this game. And to be fair, the Chiefs, they played bloody well as well. Hurricanes though, at set piece, in particular at scrum time, certainly had the wood on them. Tyrell Lomax and Xavier Numia doing a number on their Chiefs counterparts. Best player of the game, it has to be said, Asafo Aumua. Shit, is he playing well this year. And to be fair, over the last couple years, the main knock on him has been his off-field antics, and perhaps his behaviour hasn't quite been up to standard outside of his footy playing. It appears he's really risen to the challenge of being a vice-captain this year. He's in that leadership group, and as a result, looks like he's had tremendous growth, playing amazing footy. Shit, is he hard to tackle out wide, one-on-one in those wider channels, and he was the best player in the competition last week for me. I thought the Canes, they look bloody fit. They don't stop going for the full 80. Chiefs, straight out of Oranges, really turned up the heat, and I thought they were going to go on, kick on, and win the game from there. But well done to the Swills, who fought their way back. TJ Perenara equaling the Super Rugby try-scoring record as well. Shit, is he in great great form post-injury. You love to see it. And another massive tick in the box for me for Braden Yosse in his campaign to be an All Blacks bolter. He was strong, he's so powerful, big body, just looks perfect for an England Test series. So I'll be interested to see if Razor has him in his calculations. And then the Rebels, they pulled off another win against the Landers. If you'd told me in the preseason that at the end of 8 weeks, the Rebels would be in the top 4, I would have told you you were absolutely off your head. Go get a HIA, but that is the case. 5 wins from their 8 games so far, and while they're a shambles off-field, on-field, they're ticking every box. The second highest Australian team and now sitting above the Chiefs on the ladder, which is pretty crazy. A good win for them over the Landers, who are now really battling, sitting in 10th in the competition, still just the 2 wins from them. A bloody promising start to the year, but now it appears that the season is taking a toll on them, and geez, they need to bounce back and get a win this weekend. So on this weekend, of course, we have the Drua taking on the Canes in what should be a good clash over there in Fiji. 27 degrees, 84% humidity is the conditions that we are expecting. The Drua, they've shown at home, they are no joke, undefeated there this year, and I think last year actually in a similar round to this one, they actually beat the Canes by 3 or so points. The Canes though, they're a stacked squad. You should have seen their Bees backline last week. They had the likes of Will Ewan, Aidan Morgan, Celesi Rayasi, Balin Sullivan, all lacing up for their B side. So that was a massive flex from them, just showing how stacked they are. And even if they do rest a few rigs, I'm recording this before the teams are named on a Wednesday, I still think they'll have enough depth to get this one done, but I do expect that it could be reasonably tight. Then on your Super Saturday, 2 good games, interesting ones to watch as well. The Blues take on the Brumbies. Crazy to see the Brums paying $4 at the TAB. Second versus third, I do expect the Blues to be too strong at home and what will be a massive test for their forward pack in particular. But the Brumbies, they're no joke. If this game was in Canberra, I'd probably back them in as favourites, but fingers crossed the Blues can get the dub here. And then following that, Force versus Crusaders, and this is legit must-win territory now for the Cruisers. The Force, they suck. I'm tipping them to win the spoon. Just the 1 win, but it's actually 11th versus 12th, a potential wooden spoon bowl. Hopefully the Crusaders can lift after a good week bonding in Perth, and they can come away with the chockies. And I'm keen to see Sever Reece go about his work again as well. For me, he's been that one Crusaders player that's been exceptional all year round. Bloody exciting whenever he gets the hands on the ball, and he's recovered from that ACL so well, which is exciting times as well. In terms of your big rugby news, outside of Joey Manu signing, of course, with Toyota Verblitz, the other big news, re-signings this week, was that Jordie Barrett, he's become the first All Black to extend beyond the 2027 World Cup, signing a 4-year deal that will see him stick with New Zealand Rugby until the end of 2028. Interestingly enough, built in there though actually is a 6-month sabbatical, so he won't be playing for the Canes in next year's Super Rugby. That makes it must-win territory almost for them now. They will get Artie back next year, but without Bitcoin Barrett in the 12 jersey, that will be a massive blow for them. But Jordie, he'll be linking up with Leinster over there in the European competition. A bloody good team. They're stacked as well, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes over there. I wasn't aware that he actually spent a few years there in his childhood growing up, so he's got links with the Dublin-based club as well. So excited to see how Jordie goes. And it did get me thinking, this whole Club World Cup, it could really open up a cat amongst the pigeons. Of course, kicks off in 2028. I wouldn't be surprised if this European big dogs, the Japanese as well, they've shown they've got a shit ton of money to blow. There'll be some rich owners of these clubs. Of course, a lot of them are privately owned that will want to claim that first Club World Cup. Wouldn't be surprised if some of the biggest names in the New Zealand game get offered lucrative 6-month to 1-year deals just to go over there, try win them the chip, and then they come back to New Zealand. So watch this space. But well done to Jordie. Great for New Zealand Rugby to have him locked up, and can't wait to see old Bitcoin Barrett with that silver fern on his left tit for the next 4 years. Weekly wrap time now, and shout out to Scotty Scheffler, who of course won his second Masters in the last 3 years. Did so comfortably. Fair to say the bloke can grip and rip. Shit can he hit a ball. And well done to him. Seems like a bloody good bloke. He said his mind wasn't on the tournament. It was more on his wife, who was due to give birth to their first child. So a huge week, no doubt, for the Schefflers. Shout out to Ryan Fox as well, who started with a hiss and a roar. He was leading the field for quite a few hours on day one. Played bloody well off the back of what had been a hard start to 2024 for him. Finished tied for 38th, a bloody good result and one that he can certainly be proud of. Good to see him winning some prize money and with a smile on his face as well. You love to see it. Tiger Woods, I think it was his worst ever finish in a professional tournament, I believe, but he still provided a highlight. Dropped someone with an iron shot. The poor fan took one to the head. He was hitting out the woods. Next thing you know, someone was hitting the deck. Fuck, that would hurt, but what a claim to fame it would be as well, being the poor rooster who copped a Bridgestone to the noggin off the club of old Tiger Woods. A tough shift for him overall though, and you do have to wonder if his time as a pro in competitions like this is coming to an end. UFC 300, what a card that was. Max wins the BMF belt by knocking out Gaethje with a crazy knockout, arguably one of the best ever. The stones on the man to call him into the middle with 10 seconds to go after clearly dominating the first 4 rounds, risking it all against someone like Gaethje who can stand and bang with the best of them. That was a big balls play from him, a real BMF moment right there. Max, he certainly would have got the win by decision, but he wasn't content with that. Dropped him, slept him with a second to go, and the T-Mobile Arena absolutely erupted. It would have been a real ball buster for you if you had Max by points or decision on your multi. Actually saw a bet slip. Someone had a $25 multi returning around 15 to 20k, and that was the final leg for them in order to return, was Max to get the win by points or decision. You'd be absolutely filthy, but at the same time it was hard to be that disappointed when you realise the spectacle you've just watched. I saw also Kai Carter France go on his Instagram story and say that he'll be doing the same thing in Perth, pointing to the middle of the octagon and saying let's go. I saw a rumoured card the other day and it wasn't confirmed, but it had Dan, Kai and Izzy in that card, all scheduled to fight in Perth. If that is the case, then you best believe I'll be trying to get my way over there, because that would be insane. Izzy versus Duplessis was the main event as well, so fingers crossed that comes through. And speaking of main events, UFC 300 main event didn't disappoint either, with Pereira making light work of Hill, but it was entertaining to watch. Hill kicked him in the dick, got him with one of the great nut shots that you'll ever see. Ref comes in, tries to check if Pereira's okay. Pereira, absolute boss, just waves him off and then proceeds to knock out Hill shortly after. That is one scary bloke. If you can take a kick in the dick and then knock someone out in that short space of time, then you are an absolute weapon. Saw an article as well that he put on 12 kilos from the weigh-in until the time of the fight. That is wild. Not sure if that should be legal, to be completely honest. You're almost a different human, but it just goes to show the size of the guy. He always shreds down so much weight. 12 kilos, that is legit a shit ton. So well done to Pereira. On to the NBA and the Lake Show. We are playoff bound, baby. You love to see it. Just finished watching them beat the Pelicans in the play-in. Made it interesting there down the stretch. That Zion injury was bloody unfortunate, and that proved to be the final straw for the Pelicans, who just didn't have enough weapons to overcome AD and co. And on the Lakers march, we now get to see an elite matchup in the first round between the defending champs in Denver and the Lakers. So excited for that one. Shout out to the Thunder as well, youngest team ever to clinch the 1 seed in the playoffs. What a season from them. And I'll touch more on the basketball in the Q&A, because I believe I have a couple questions about your playoff matchups, which I'll tick off for that one. Premier League, Liverpool shit the bed, and I know a lot of you are listening just to hear me concede defeat here. What a difference a week makes. We had the opportunity to cement ourselves at the top of the ladder with about 4 games to go. We dropped the ball though. Enough said on that. Everything we wanted other teams to do to help us out actually happened. We just didn't hold up our end of the bargain. Bloody disappointing. And now for me, I think Man City will just go on from here, win another one. boring shit. And then shout out to the Wellington Phoenix, who went about their work, beating the Melbourne Victory, handing them a defeat, which is ironic as their name is the Victory, but that is not what they got. 1-0. Huge result for us, and now plenty of rumours. Oscar Zawada will be back for the Phoenix. They thought it was a season-ending injury, but the kid, maybe he went to Fiji, got the Waisake Noholo treatment. They take on Newcastle this week in what should be a great game for us. Newey, they're sitting in 10th, so fingers crossed we can pick up a famous away dub and keep our chances alive in search of our first ever minor premiership win. The Mariners, they take on Adelaide United this week, who unfortunately aren't that good, but fingers crossed they could do us a favour, old United, pick up a draw. That would be massive for us, so get up, the old Adelaideans. Punting chat time now, and let's kick things off with the greatest game of all, Rugby League. As always, the punting segment is brought to you by the TAB. Please gamble responsibly. She's 18 plus, but if you are going to have a flutter on all the sporting action this weekend, then please get around the TAB. They support us, so let's support them. We really appreciate it. Tonight, Thursday night footy, Roosters taking on the Storm. The Storm have won 8 of their last 9 games against the Roosters, and the Chooks, they haven't beaten the Storm in Sydney since 2019. Xavier Coates, he scored 7 tries in his last 3 games against the Roosters, and as I touched on before, the Roosters, they haven't won back-to-back games in 2024, so I like the Storm here. I'll be backing them in. I think they'll get the dub, but my best bet is actually to go the unders total points, which is set at 38.5. I think these two are going to get into an arm wrestle. She's going to be low scoring, so that could be the safer play. Take the result out of it, and I like Xavier Coates for an anytime meaty. Then Dragons versus Warriors. Of course, you already know where I'm going. Warriors 13 plus all day long. The Dragons, they haven't won back-to-back games since 2022, and they've lost 8 of their last 9 games off the back of a 5-day turnaround. They played last Sunday. They're playing on Friday. That, ladies and gentlemen, if my quick math is correct, is exactly 5 days. So I love that for us. All Dragons games this year as well have been decided by a margin of at least 8 points. The line is 6.5, so if you want to go Warriors minus 6.5 for something a little safer at $1.90, then look, I won't turn my eye up at you, but I like Warriors 13 plus here. I think we get the job done, and we do it well. The whipping at Wollongong. Jacko Ford, he's not bad odds at $4.50. Rocco, my boy Rocco the Croco Berry, providing some anytime jam. He's at $4 if you want him standalone. Your usual culprits, Dell, Montoya, Chance, they're all good options as well. And Adam Fenor-Blake at $4, certainly not the worst. Couple game drought for the big fella now, so he is due an anytime meaty by his standards. Eels versus Dolphins. The loss of the hammer for me for the Eels is just going to be too big for them to overcome. They still don't have Flegler as well. Sean O'Sullivan, he comes onto the bench in place of suspended Anthony Milford, but I like the Eels in this one, despite the stats not quite suggesting the same thing. The Eels have lost their last 2 games in Darwin, which of course this one will be played, and they haven't won back-to-back games without Mitch Moses since 2020. Brad Arthur, he has also struggled against Wayne Bennett's sides. He's only won 1 of his last 5 games when coaching up against the GOAT. So I like Para head-to-head in this still though, like I touched on before. I also don't mind the unders for this one either. Each of the last 7 straight Dolphins night games have gone the unders. It's set at 44.5 here, so if you think she's going to be reasonably low scoring, then not a bad shout. Otherwise, para head-to-head. Panthers versus Tigers. Of course, Nathan Cleary still remains sidelined. This game will be played in Bathurst as well. Tigers, Lockie Galvin back. Brett Naden also back into the mixer, as is Johnny Bateman. So 3 big inclusions for the Tigers there. The Panthers, they've won their last 10 straight day games, but as I mentioned in that preview before, the Panthers, they've actually lost 3 of their past 7 games to the Tigers, and they've only won 2 of their last 5 games at Bathurst. So she's not a happy hunting ground for them. In saying that, I do expect the Panthers to still be too classy. I thought the Tigers were really disappointing last week. So Panthers win, and then I like a Taruva try for your anytime meaties. He scored 6 tries in his last 4 games, so pencil him in. Titans versus Manly. Philip Sammy, the sandwich, he comes in at fullback. Of course, no Campbell, he's out with a knee niggle. AJ Brimson, he comes in to partner Kieran 4.5 halves. David Fafita finally gets a start for Manly though. They welcome back some big names with injury. Matty Lodge back from an ACL. Ruben Garrick, Nathan Brown, Jason Saab, all good to go. The old submarine. So look out for the Titans. Manly, they've won 4 of their last 5 games on the Goldie. Des Hasler, he's won 7 of his last 8 coaching against Manly, of course his old side. And the underdog has won the first half in Manly's last 6 games. So if you did want to get Ivan Leary and go Titans into Manly, that's paying $7. Not the worst odds there. Me though, I'm going to play it with a straight bet. Play it safe. Go Manly to win. For your try scorers, Ruben Garrick, he scored 66 points in his last 2 games against the Titans. He's a good shout, as is Jason Saab, because that bloke just scores tries for fun. Broncos Raiders, unchanged Broncos side. Raiders without Zach Hosking, son of Mike. Broncos have won their last 5 straight at Suncorp. The Raiders, though, they've won 4 of their last 6 against the Broncos. I like the Broncos here. I think Hosking is going to be a massive loss for the Raiders, but that 7.5 line is also semi-appealing. If they had Rapana and co, I'd probably get in on the Raiders, but I think their outs are more significant than the Broncos just because of the Broncos' depth at the moment. Selwyn Cobb and co, he's a good anytime try scorer option. 5 tries in his last 3 against the Green Machine. Doggies versus Knights, upset alert. I think there's some real value here around the Dogs who go in as underdogs. And I think Kalen Ponga, he could be touch and go. Of course, he's named, picked up that hip pointer injury though. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was a late scratching. If that is the case, I think the odds for the Dogs will drop dramatically. Connor Tracy, like seeing him at fullback. Think he's been going great guns, so get around them. The Dogs, they haven't bet the Knights at home since 2014. And the Knights have won 5 of their last 6 against the Bulldogs. Despite that, there's just something about this Doggies side at the moment which has convinced me to go with them on the nose and the Fox to score. He scored 21 tries in 22 games at home, so he is almost as good as an automatic tick. And then in your final game for the round, you have the Sharkies taking on the Cows. Mentioned before, I like the Sharks here. They've won 10 of their last 11 games against the Cowboys and 4 of their last 5 at home. So I'll be jumping on the Sharks well and truly. They've also got Samuel Stonestreet on debut. How you can not back a side with a bloke making his debut with a name like Samuel Stonestreet. That is one of the greats. Don't mind him to score. Also Mulatalo, he scored 30 tries in his last 27 games at home. In terms of your multis for your NRL, I like the Warriors -6.5, the unders in the Roosters game, and the Doggies head to head. That's paying $6 rugby league dollars, so I will be jumping on board that. Then jumping across to the 15-man code, and there's plenty going on there too. Fingers crossed she's a bit easier to pick than last week, although if you did do an underdogs multi, shit would that have paid some big bickies for you, and you'd be laughing all the way to the bank. What a result that would have been for the Drua Canes. I think the Canes will just be too good, and I'm just going to take them head to head on the nose, paying $1.34 to be too strong. Despite it being in Fiji, mentioned their depth just so good this year, so back in the swirls to remain undefeated. Reds versus Landers, unfortunately, I'll be going the Reds here, 1-12. I think it will be tight, but I expect the Reds in Queensland to be too strong for a Highlanders team that is really battling. Brews versus Brums, mentioned before, Brumbies at $4, way too much. Blues $1.25, so clear favourites here. I like the Blues 1-12 in this one. I think it will be tight, and the Brums are good enough to make it a tight scoreline, but I'll back the lads from the City of Sales to get the chockies there. And then Force Crusaders, I'm just playing the Crusaders safe, taking them straight up, head to head. You don't quite know what they're going to dish up at the moment, but surely, despite this being in Perth, they should be too good for a pretty shit Force side. So for my multi there, I've gone the Canes head to head, the Reds head to head, the Blues head to head, and the Satyrs head to head. That's a safe option at $2.51. You want to mix it up? Go Blues 1-12, boost the odds a little, and fingers crossed that one salutes for you. For my best bet of the week, last week she was actually a bit of a draw. We got the push, and shout out to the TAB. We had the Warriors into the Phoenix to get the win or draw, paying $2.48. So we did get a little payout, which was great to see. I'm going to bank that in as a win. Why not? So we are now 9 from 11 and happy days there. This week for your best bet of the week, I'm just going the Warriors Warriors -6.5 into the Blues, just head to head, paying $2.37. Fingers crossed that comes through for a cheeky little double up. Then for your Magic multi, last week no good, so we're now 4 from 10 on these. I had the Warriors -6.5, not to be. Pereira, KO, TKO, which came through, great scenes there. And then Chiefs 1-12, of course the Swills were too good for them by 13 +2. Certainly didn't see that one coming. So for your multi this week, my Magic multi, of course, as I tap it into my phone, doing this one live, we're going big, chasing some $18.68 odds, which I think would actually be my biggest collect of the pod so far this year if she comes through. Warriors 13 plus, you already know the drill, paying $2.63. Blues 1-12 at $2.45, and then the Reds 1-12 over the Landers at $2.80. 18.68, like I said, cheeky tenner on that, $186.80. You beauty. Good luck if you are having a flutter this weekend. Promos, power plays, boosted odds galore. Head along to the Punters Lounge on the TAB app or website to get yourself in the game. Please gamble responsibly, but hopefully you have a couple of cheeky little dubs off the back of my tips there on the Carmichael punt. You beauty. Q&A time, and there's some doozies here, so let's rip into them. The first one comes through for Running for Sal, and he says, will Australia's Super Rugby form transfer through to the Wallabies? They've certainly unearthed some great talent there. I spoke on Kale last week. Then you had old Darby ripping up, scoring a hat-trick on the weekend too. Some young guns that I didn't know a lot about who look to be genuine throbbers in the world of rugby union. When you add Joe Schmidt into the mixer as well, Mike Cron at the coaching level, then I think the stage is set to see a much improved Wallabies side this rugby championship. Will it happen straight away? I'm not quite sure. I'm sure they'll be targeting a lot of improvement though in the next 1 to 2 years, and personally I'm all for it. Fingers crossed that happens. I want to see close Bledisloe Cup matches again, where we go into games genuinely not knowing the result. At the same time though, if you do look at the ladder, I think the Brumbies, the Rebels, and you could chuck the Reds in the mixer, they've been performing well at Super Rugby, but when you look at the Tars and the Force, 3 wins combined between the two of them, between 15 contests, it doesn't make for great reading. So Schmidt still has a bit of a task on his hand, but I do think there's positive signs from across the ditch that they will be a lot better in this World Cup cycle. And I'll be keen to know your thoughts, mate, because I know you're very knowledgeable on the game of rugby union. Shout out to Nick, who says, how was the past week being a Liverpool fan? Look, it was completely dog shit. I'm going to be honest. We had our chance. We blew it. I think those were lyrics from a Paramore song back in the day, but bloody disappointing. Would have loved to have sent Jurgen Klopp off as a winner of the Prem. Now it's an uphill battle when the ball should have been in our court, so tough scenes. But hey, you'll never walk alone. Fingers crossed we can get the job done. And your United certainly played a big part in our unravelling, which is bloody unfortunate for me. Next up, what do you think the Titans need to do to break their losing streak? Look, it's tough for them. When you look across their roster, they've actually got some pretty good players. They've had a rough run with injury. Jaden Campbell, he's now out as well, and not having him or Fafita for the start of the season certainly did help them. Then you lose Tino with an ACL, and you really are pushing shit uphill. Some of your best players not available. When you're a team like the Titans, you need to be fielding your best team 1 to 17 week in and week out just to be competitive. I think you could look at their halves. Brinson's in there this week. He's probably a better fullback though. I thought Desi Hasler would have ironed out some of these combinations, really put his foot down, set the scene, and then they would have gone from around there. I do think Des is a coach that could pull off a bit of a revival for them, so I think it's going to get tougher before it gets easier. Do note as well, Fafita hasn't activated his extension clause. He's still not committed to the Titans long term. They need to lock him up in a major way. If they were to lose David Fafita, then it's going to be tough times for the boys from the Goldie, but not all is dead and done. At the same time though, I do think now they'd have to be your odds-on favourites to win the wooden spoon, which is probably not what you want to hear. Next up, Taylor says NBA playoff predictions, and I'll actually bring up those series now and run through them, give you my thoughts as to who I think will win and advance into the second round. Of course, in the East, you got the Celtics taking on 8th. Those play-in games in the East go down tomorrow. Then you got the Knicks taking on 7. The Bucks versus Pacers. Excited for this series. Pacers have had the wood over the Bucks in the regular season, and Giannis, he's going to miss at least a couple of games, so I'd love to see the Pacers get up and end the Bucks in this one. Cavs versus Magic. I love the Jick. I'm all in on them. The Cavs, they've been real up and down, and for me, this is a series that the Magic would have wanted. Donovan Mitchell, he has the potential to just go off for 50 on any given night, so he is a huge threat. But I'm going to tip in the underdog Magic there to pull off the upset and get through. That would be a bloody good result for them. Such a young team. You're playing games there today if you're listening now. You got the Sixers versus the Heat. I'll back Embiid there to get it done. And the Bulls versus the Hawks. I'll probably back the Bulls. Then in the West, you got the Thunder taking on the winner of the Pelicans versus Kings game. Then you got Denver taking on the Lake Show. Arrested LeBron. He's going to get a few days off now, so fingers crossed that can help. It doesn't get any harder than taking on the defending champs in Denver in a 7-game series, so it's certainly not going to be easy for the lads, but hopefully LeBron and co can just ball out. They've been playing some great basketball as of late. D'Angelo Russell, is this sustainable? Probably not, but hopefully he can deliver on the biggest stage. Would love to see the Lake Show advance. Wolves versus Suns. This is probably the worst possible matchup for them. For your T-Wolves, mate, unfortunately. Phoenix 3-0 against them. It's been a clean sweep of this year's series, and they actually averaged the most points per game. I believe around 125 points per game up against the T-Wolves of any side in the competition. So this is legit the nightmare for all T-Wolves fans in your life. So if you know a couple, send them a text, wish them farewell. It was a great season for you lads, but I think the Suns will get up here. Add to that, old Anthony Edwards poking the bear, saying McDaniels can guard KD. When will you learn? I think Slim Reaper is going to have a field day. Clippers versus Mavs. This is a series that's going to go right down to the wire. Historically, the Clips have had the wood on the Mavs, but Luka and Kyrie just playing exceptional basketball. The Mavericks post that trade deadline look like a whole new team, so I'm really excited for that one. I'm going to go the Mavs there to get the job done. So those are my first round predictions. Geez, there's some series there that are genuine coin tosses though, could go either way, so I'm bloody excited to see how it all plays out. Your next question comes through from Henry Lee, and he says, can my OKC Thunder go all the way? Should I hope so? What a year from them. If the Lakers don't win it in LeBron, then I'll certainly be rooting for OKC. It's not going to be easy for them right from the first round. They're going to have some tough matchups, and I'm really excited to see if SGA and co can continue this momentum in a potentially 7-game series. They've been beating teams all year, but can they do it for a duration of a playoff series? Now you get teams dialing in on just ways to shut you down, really X's and O's stuff to see if there's any weaknesses they can exploit and lock you up on offense. So this is going to be a massive test for a young Thunder side, and I can't wait to see how it all goes. Hopefully Chet, J-Dub and co can all play at the standard they have been so far and give SGA the pieces he needs, and then the Thunder march on. I'd love to see it happen. Henry there, mate, so fingers crossed your team does bloody well. Next one comes through from friend of the show, Ryan, who says, you reckon Bron has another chip in him? Absolutely. Bloke's the GOAT, playing some of the best ball in his career, despite being 39 years old, constantly breaking records. He's an absolute freak. So Denver first up, like I said, can't get any harder, but I'm excited to see how this series plays out, and if they can get through Denver, then I believe they can go on to win the whole thing, and that would be absolute scenes. And then finally, where do you see Joey Manu playing if he makes it to the All Blacks level? Assuming you mean positional wise, mate, and I touched on it a little before, but I think first and foremost, he'll play the majority of his code at centre. Of course, the centre in the NRL, so it translates pretty well for him, but I do think starting him out on a wing just to get his bearings, adjust him back into the game so he can get used to rugby union at the top level, that wouldn't be the worst decision. We saw Sonny Bill do the same when he went down to the Crusaders. I believe he started out on the wing just to learn the tricks of the trade, so maybe that would be a good call for Joey. Wouldn't look out of place in the 15 jersey as well, and bloody excited to see how it all plays out. So cheers for your questions there. Really appreciate you firing them through. As always, chuck them up on my Instagram on your Wednesday, or comment them on the YouTube, and I'll be sure to tick them off. How bloody good. Well, that's us for another episode of Surly. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and cheers again for getting bums on seats, earpods and eardrums, and listening to me, Shaun, for the last hour or so. Get up the mighty wires, historic week for us. James FisherHarris for the 8th time in this potty. Had to name drop him. Fizz levels are high, but how good is that? A 13+ win over the Dragons. That would be the cherry on the cake for me. So fingers crossed the lads can go over to Wynn Stadium and come away with the dub. It's in the name, so surely that comes through. Up the mighty coat, up the lake show, NBA playoffs, so much going on at the moment, so enjoy your weekend of sport, and I'll catch you back here, same time, same place, next week to sink the teeth into all the results and preview what should be a doozy of a week. Anzac game at Mount Smart, already excited for that one, so catch you soon. How good.